So my next step is to unscrew 6 bolts for the clutch here. I believe that I have to use the special tool to disassemble self-adjustment clutches, but in this case, since I'm anyway going to replace the pressure plate and the clutch disc, I'm going to unscrew them just evenly, so without mounting the special tool here. The flywheel is original here, Mazda. I will unmount it. There are 8 bolts here, so not a big deal. And since I'm here, I'm also going to replace the crankshaft seal, but I don't see the leakages. But anyway, since I'm here. So on the gearbox side, I already unmounted the fork, and as you can see, this is the fork. There is a kind of, rubber, and this, in order to remove it, by the way, just pull this thing and this thing from both sides to make this hole bigger, and because it's connected here, and so it's like this. And another reason why I'm doing all that job, just because my throughout bearing, I think you see, I mean, I had some noise when I pressed the clutch, it created some noise, and now it's very clear that the throughout bearing is not perfect. Another reason why I pulled the gearbox. Okay, let's inspect the clutch, flywheel, pressure plate. So this is the flywheel, original Mazda, the numbers if you need them. So there are 3 main parameters. So first it is this movement. There are springs inside. This is the second mass, and it should move like this. And the manual states that if this movement like this less than 14 teeth on the flywheel here, it's okay. In this case it's less than 14, so you put some mark and calculate amount of 14 teeth. So this is perfect, I mean. And after that, now it's very hard to move it. I feel how the springs internally gets engaged, so I think it's good. The second parameter is radial play here. It is there a bit. Should be no radial play or very insignificant radial play. It is there, you can hear it, and I think it's kind of okay. Also, of course, this dual mass is moving. Like this, and it's okay. Even a new flywheel would behave the same way. So I think those parameters are in tolerance likely. So play here is not acceptable, like, or very subtle. I consider it like a small play. But if we see the surface, the third parameter, the surface here, you see it shows signs of overheating. So here it was heated kind of more because you see it's blue. Here we see spots, of the high temperature, and this brown side, it is also overheating, but I guess it's a bit less temperature than the blue one. So, and also see this kind of blue part, it goes on the side, and this is the internal part. Interesting. So the flywheel is good, but I consider this overheating is pretty severe, and for a long term better to replace it, but otherwise it would work, and I think it could be installed on a car and work for years. And this is how the other side looks like, by the way. 16 kilograms. So yeah, this is the gearbox side. You see the SAC transmission side, Luke brand. The clutch was replaced, the flywheel is original. You can't install it, by the way, with the other side, so you see it doesn't fit. So always when you install the clutch disc, spy on this side, transmission side. This is the number. Interesting is that if we see the flywheel surface, this one, You see also this one is smoother, so there was more slippery here, I guess, and less here. So I think that this clutch disc was engaged first, you know, kind of this part, and then when you release the clutch completely, you know, it was engaged more. But the slippery happened here, I think. At least it explains why it's smoother here and not super smooth kind of in this sides. And also it explains why it's blue, you know, and it's less blue, just because temperature was higher here, so due to slippery. In my case, I had symptoms that when I was in a traffic jam and engaged clutch often or many times, I felt kind of vibrations, you know, after 10 minutes of driving like that, I felt increased vibrations from the clutch exactly when it was engaged partially, you know. It wasn't a big deal, but still it bothered me. So, okay. And if we check the pressure plate, so the pressure plate luke again was replaced. This mechanism, you know, the ring which is inside, which compensate for the wear and tear of the clutch disc, it's here. It can move even more, so it indicates pretty good clutch disc. And yes, the clutch disc is really in a pretty good condition. I mean, it's pretty thick still, like new, I would say. A bit less than new, but like new. And here, signs of overheating here, and also I feel some wear and tear at the place when throughout bearing contacted the pressure plate. And it's pretty interesting if you see it from here. Again, signs of slippery, and a lot of them. Again, blue parts, some overheating. It looks pretty severe to me, you know. If you see the surfaces, it's pretty severe, especially keeping in mind that the pressure plate was replaced and it already has this, you know, and clutch disc in a pretty good condition. So I guess it's like, I'm not sure how many kilometers, you know, but still it should be newer than the Flywheel, but according to this science, it's pretty similar. I'm going to replace the Flywheel, the clutch kit, you know, basically everything here. It's not that bad and it's going to work, but I think it is the reason of increased vibrations in traffic jams, you know. How to install such pressure plates? This is self-adjustment clutch, and probably I need to make another video about that, because there are a lot of interesting things about how it works. But in short, if you have a new pressure plate, you need to make sure that those springs here, that they're pressed. So as you can see, in this case they're not pressed completely, so this part, it should go kind of to that side and press the spring completely. If you buy a clutch kit, it is usually pressed in most of the cases. If it is pressed, then you can evenly screw, you know, those bolts, and you will be likely okay. A lot of people in the internet, they say they do it and it works. One thing here, if you screw them, you know, just evenly, and you can see, now I don't have clutch disc installed, so if I install the clutch disc here, let me show it to you. Okay, so clutch disc is installed, and it doesn't go. Okay, so if the clutch disc is installed, see the, oh damn it, it's not like it should go, it should be like that. So see the distance that you need to press it. Not that big a distance, not that big distance, right? So in this case you can evenly screw like with the usual clutch, and likely it's going to work, but there is a chance that you can bend the pressure plate, and if you want to be 100% sure that such clutch is installed correctly, you need to use a special tool for that. There are many self-adjustment clutch tools, and in my case I have this one. They all look very similar, so I'm going to show you how I use it. Imagine that the pressure plate is in its initial state, or it is reset. In this case it's not, but anyway, I'll show you. So basically you need to screw these things from the tool, you know, something like this. You simply screw them. So basically screw them just a bit until they touch the pressure plate. Then you put the thing that you're going to use to press it from the tool set. Then you screw the nuts here. And then you press it until it touches the flywheel, but not more, just until it touches. Okay, so now it touches. I mean, the distance here is like, you know, 0, and you simply screw 3 bolts here, then remove the tool. And then you screw other 3 bolts, and this is how you install it in a way that you are 100% sure that it's pressed properly. However, if you are going to reuse the old pressure plate for some reason, or if you received a new pressure plate but you see that those springs are not pressed completely, you need to perform a so-called reset procedure. If you don't perform it, you won't be able to properly disengage the clutch, and you should not assemble it if it's not reset, if you use a new clutch disc. Yes, if it's not reset and you just reuse the existing pressure plate and the existing clutch disc, then you can simply press it or evenly screw it, and likely will be okay. But if the clutch disc is new, or the pressure plate is not looking like it is reset, or if you want to be on the safe side, you need to perform reset procedure here. How you can perform it using this tool? So basically the main idea is that you need to push the diaphragm spring when this part, this surface which presses the clutch disc, when it's not presses anything but something keeps the pressure plate. So basically, if you kind of put it here on the flywheel without the clutch disc, in this case the pressure plate contacts the flywheel. However, the surface there which which presses the clutch disc, it doesn't contact with anything. And in this case, you need to press this this part, and at some point this mechanism will be engaged. So I'm going to show you how it's going to look like. And basically, for instance, spy on this spring. If I reset it, at some point you see the spring moves now. You see it moves? I can show it to you with the screwdriver. So see, it's moving there now. And now I can use this kind of tool to press the spring there. And now I can, help with the screwdriver. I will move it from somewhere here, like this, for instance. And then I can install this tool here, and basically I can press the springs or the ring inside, which compensates for the wear. And so see, I pressed the springs, and now I can simply unscrew it back, unpress it, and now I remove this tool. Remove all those nuts and stuff. And you see the pressure plate now is reset. You see how springs look like. So see how they look like. They are now reset. And you can reuse now this pressure plate with the new clutch disc. In order how to center the clutch disc in such configuration, so basically such self-adjustment clutch, they have something like this, to basically center the clutch disc. So you see, in my case, so it fits perfectly here, and this part can go to the pilot bearing. So basically I can, I can center the clutch disc. Unfortunately my tool, so some tools, they allow to use centering tool with this thing which presses the pressure plate, and in my case it's not the case. So what I need to do, I need to basically center the clutch disc, then I need to install the pressure plate. Now I need to make sure that the clutch disc is centered using this tool, and then keeping by hand, I can screw this kind of rods, or how it's named, these things, and they touch a bit the pressure plate, and I can kind of fix the pressure plate like this when the clutch disc is centered. And if I just screw them evenly, like just a bit, and just a bit, then I can remove the centering tool, and the clutch disc is going to stay there, and it will allow me to press the pressure plate, and it won't move. In order to move it, I can't move it by hand now. So keep that in mind, that now it's super pressed. However, those things, they keep the pressure plate just a bit, so it's not going to move anywhere. Even if I unscrew them completely, still very hard, but now I can move. So basically you need to screw them just a bit so that they create very small pressure, and you can use such kind of centering tool. After you press it, you can also double check if it works. If this goes to the pilot bearing, you're okay. This is how I'm going to install it, so likely it's going to work. However, as I said, there are different self-adjustment clutch tools, and some of them allows you to keep the centering tool even when you use this thing to press. And basically that's it. I'll probably make, as I said, I will probably make another video about how the self-adjustment clutches work. So just a summary in short, if it is new and if it is in a press state, yes, you can simply evenly screw the bolts, but keep in mind that companies who produce self-adjustment clutches, they suggest to use a special tool, just because when you screw it, if something goes wrong here, you can, you know, bend the pressure plate or somehow activate the self-adjustment mechanism, which is not a good idea. So spy on the springs, they should be pressed after you install it manually. But if you want to be 100% sure, use the self-adjustment clutch tool. If you reuse the old pressure plate, or if you received a new one and the springs don't look like they're pressed, reset the clutch. In order to reset, the easiest way is to remove the clutch disc from here and basically press it without the clutch disc using the self-adjustment, you know, tool for that, and then move the springs back to its pressed state. Or you can use a press, but you need to make sure that this surface contact with the surface of the press, but not this one. And if you press here when this surface is contacting with the press, you know, you won't be able to reset it. So that's it. Unfortunately, I wanted to replace the crankshaft seal just in advance, but as we can see, it leaks. It leaks, and I will replace it now. By the way, pilot bearing looks good to me. It doesn't have axial play. Manual states that if it has axial play, replace it, but in my case it's perfect and it seems like it was replaced. I believe someone replaced it before me. So I will keep it as is, which is great. Don't need to replace that. So now I need to unscrew these bolts, carefully pry it and remove the seal. Let's see how it looks like. Probably also, I think someone was here. It doesn't look like factory. So I think it leaks also from here. Probably, I'm not sure, but not that bad, but makes sense to replace it. This is the rear cover and rear crankshaft seal. As you can see, I removed it. There is a sealant, so I removed all the bolts, and you need to pry it from the side evenly somehow. So be careful. I was able to pry it, but sometimes it's kind of stuck there. So now I'm going to remove this seal. I will probably use this tool or just by hands. So let's see. And I want to remember how it sits here. So if I see it, so this surface seems like even with the, or probably a bit less, and this surface looks even to me. It's a bit on top of that, kind of. Okay, I cleaned the surface here. So this surface and this one, everything is cleaned, the lower one as well. So in order to how to put the sealant, I'm not going to put the sealant here at all. I'm going to put all the sealant only on the rear cover. And regarding the rear cover, so see here this surface. I think it should be with sealant as well, but the manual doesn't state that. But anyway, I will put it there as well. The cleaned cover looks like this. and the seal should go like this from the internal side, and thickness should be 2 or 3 millimeters. And I will also put the seal on the lower side here, just because I believe it can leak from there. Regarding the seal itself, so you should press it here very carefully. I'm going to use for this just my hands. It's interesting to see what special tool should be here in order to install it. It seems like it's aligned. Seems like it's aligned like it should. Now I will put the sealant and install it. I put the oil here, just enough. I put a bit too much, to be honest. This is how I put the sealant compound here. It is visible, and also from the bottom side and from the here, and now I'm going to install it. First I will try to find the real, and then I move it and then to up a bit. It's okay, as you can see, it's moving on the shaft. I believe I'm good. And press it. So I'm going to use here kind of crisscross pattern, like this, 1, 2, probably 3, 4, or better 1, 2, 3, 4, 4. I mean something like this. This one, this one, this one, this one, this one. I think it doesn't actually matter, but it should. And then repeat. So it goes. It seems like I can't move it by hand anymore, so I'll take the wrench. It's now installed and looks good to me. I cleaned the sealant from the bottom, 8 Newton meters, from 8 to 10 the torque, so now it's good. One thing, after that you should wait, probably 24 hours before you start the car, but in my case I will wait even more. So the crankshaft seal is completed, I believe. It is very important when you install the seal to put it at one place first and then kind of move it a bit, just because there is a spring inside the seal and you can move it like this. And this is how you can install it easily. I did one mistake here. Probably it's a big mistake or not, but unfortunately I noticed it only after I assembled everything, and while I was working on the video, you know, I noticed that. It is a very important thing. So, see how I put the sealant here. Yes, I understand that it's not so beautiful, however, it's not that bad, I would say, just because it's 2 or 3 millimeters, you know, somewhere, you know, here it's a lot. So, okay, I did it improperly for some reason, and I was in a hurry a bit probably, or I just didn't pay attention, you know. But I checked the manual, but I still, you know, I put it this way, unfortunately. So, see those places here, here, and here. This is basically where the sealant should go. So, it should go here and here. And there should be no such thing at all. It should simply go straight, you know, from the hole, you know, here. And it should go kind of like this. And here, you know, and basically completely the same from this side. And also the same thing on the bottom side as well. It's not mentioned in the manual as far as I remember, however on the bottom side there is also, you know, this place for the sealant. So it should be put, you know, this way. I put it this way and it is not good. Why? This is how the engine block looks like, and see the surface here. There is not that much distance from this side, right? So in my case, because I put it this way, likely, you know, here I don't have, you know, good contact with the sealant, right? Just because sealant kind of goes here, and another bad thing is that it can detach from the cover and basically go in my oil pan, which is not that big of a deal just because it's not that much sealant here. And likely either, you know, likely the oil filter will catch it, so not a big deal. It's not a big deal. It's a big deal when you have a lot of sealant there, but in this case it's not. But anyway, it's something that, you know, not good. But it means that at this place, and the same is here, you know, I don't have the needed you know, sealant, right? Which is bad. Unfortunately, I already assembled everything, and I'm going to inspect this thing. I'm not sure whether it's going to leak or not. Likely, even if it's going to leak, it will be not that much of oil here, you know, just a bit. But anyway, there is a potential that is going to leak. This is how it looked like after I assembled it, and basically these places, you know, here and here, this is the potential leak place, and the same from this side. I can access this place using the hole for the starter, which is placed somewhere here, and I can use a borescope, right, and check this place. I'm not sure about this one, just because it's very hard to, you know, there is a flywheel, you know, installed, so it's very hard to check this one. However, if it leaks here, it likely leaks here, and if it doesn't leak here, it likely doesn't leak here. Also, if you notice, you know, this distance here is a bit less than here, so it means that if this doesn't leak, likely this one also doesn't leak, just because I mean, pretty similar. I mean, the distance here is a bit more, but actually this is the right side if the flywheel is in front of you. So don't do that, and properly you should put, you know, you should put it here. And to be honest, you know, where those lines, you know, go very near to those holes for the bolts. And ideally, I think better to use the finger a bit here, and you don't need much sealant here. You need to you know, spread it properly, you know, on this surface. So be very careful with that, and don't do my mistake. It's kind of sad that, you know, there is a good chance that I will need to reassemble it just for peace of mind, you know. Also, I would suggest you to put the sealant here, I mean here in between the cover and the seal. So seal likely it has some oil, you know, just clean that oil, put very thin layer of sealant and put it here just in case, just because it will help you to be sure that it doesn't leak from here. This is the new flywheel, Luke brand. So as you can see, it's very hard to move it while it's here, and this play is a lot less, and it doesn't move to the right or to the left. Probably it moves just a bit, but it doesn't in comparison, you know, to this. And also there is a lot of play like that. So this is not super bad, but I decided to install a new one. I cleaned the threads for the crank shaft, and regarding those small bolts, the manual states, by the way, black bolts should be at the bottom, and the manual states that I should remove any sealant from the bolts before reusing them. So this is what I did. I haven't checked whether this hole is whether it goes to the, you know, to the area of the engine block, so I don't think so. So that's why I use them without any sealant here. I hope it won't leak. I'm using new flywheel bolts. This is Luke brand. So don't see the number. So the new flywheel has been installed, and I torqued all the bolts. You see the crisscross pattern. I put the marks for me here. Bolts are new, 152 Newton meters. 152. I did it in 3 stages. First stage was 80, then 126, 84 actually, 126, and that's it. I also cleaned the surface here with the brake cleaner already. Do not spray the brake cleaner inside the flywheel. You should only spray it on this surface. My friend kept the crankshaft from the other side, from rotation, and there was kind of, you know, this rubber cover. I removed it using the screwdriver. Be careful to not damage it. So in my case it's okay. So this is how you can keep the crankshaft from rotating if you don't have a special tool to keep it in place. This is the gearbox side, double check. Okay. Clean the pressure plate before installation. And now I need to make sure that the disc is aligned. I'm using this tool for the first time. Disc can play there a bit, but I don't think that it's crucial play. Something like this. Just a bit. I will screw them until they touch a bit later. Okay, so it kind of touches here, but I want to unscrew them a bit, just a bit. And now I need to kind of make sure that the alignment is okay again. And once I'm sure that it's okay, I will screw them a bit, and it should keep the clutch disc properly. My alignment tool is not perfect. But I think now the clutch is aligned. The clutch disc actually. Okay, now I screw it until it touches the plate. Yeah, thank you, man. The disc is not going to move from there anywhere, I believe. And I can remove the alignment tool. Looks good to me. Okay, so this is here. You need to screw it just when it touches the plate. Like this. Now the pressure plate presses the clutch disc, so you can't move it anywhere. A bit more, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Check. Yeah, now it touches it, I think so, yeah.
The other places. I will screw the bolts a bit by with small wrench now, and then I will be able to remove the tool. I got a dead battery unfortunately, but now it's all screwed. So basically I removed the tool, screwed all those bolts in crisscross pattern again, 25 Newton meters torque for those bolts. I screwed it in 3 stages, so 8, 16 and 25. Screw it at least in 2 stages, this is what manual states. So as you can see, springs are pressed, so the shaft is aligned. I hope it's visible from here. So the shaft is aligned. I see it visually. I put some small amount of grease on the splines there. And here the gearbox was kind of cleaned a bit from the inside. The fork is cleaned. I put lithium based high temperature you know, wear resistant grease here up to 380 degrees. New throughout bearing look again. So the grease is here on the splines again, and small amount of grease also here and there when it connects to the, you know, place of the gearbox. And now it works, I would say, perfectly. So regarding the bolts, by the way, on the gearbox, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 2 here, 1 here, and this is, yeah, and I think this one, and, or actually not this one, and this is the starter bolts. So we are going to put it back. Let's see how it goes. So the gearbox is in place now, and we put 1 bolt there, but actually even without this bolt, the gearbox, you know, the gearbox is kind of semi-stable. So only 1 bolt is installed at this point. Engine is supported using the hoist, and we moved the hoist to that direction. This is the jack, and we installed the gearbox with just 1 jack. It is not that super convenient, to be honest, and if you have transmission jack, the job will be super easy, but if you don't have this way works. In order to put the main shaft to the clutch disc, you need to rotate a bit the gearbox, which is possible with this setup without big issues. And the key point here is alignment. When the gearbox is aligned perfectly, which means that bolts are in place, you know, the distance here, distance there is, you know, are pretty much the same. In this case it is very easy to install it, just, you know, need to pull it and that's it. What is possible with the jack, but jack should be placed like this in order to move, you know. And it's pretty tricky, but absolutely possible. And another thing which is very important, the engine now is kind of lowermost position. And why it is lowermost? Just because here it can touch the body of the car. If you continue lowering it, this support will be broken, just because, or some pulley there can be broken just because it touches there and kind of moves the engine to the other side. So this is the lowermost setup. It looks like this here, so this amount of distance to the engine support, keep that in mind and always spy there. Okay, so the final thing, okay, now I'm ready to screw bolts and nuts here. Everything is perfectly aligned. It's easier to do it with the engine hoist, because if you up the gearbox, engine plays, you know, a bit. Okay, now the gearbox is mounted here, and I also temporarily installed slave clutch cylinder back, just to see how the clutch works. And clutch works. So you can see also the gearbox from here. That's why you can't pull it without dropping the engine, no way. Regarding torque here, so 3 small bolts, this one, and this one, 14 millimeters. I torqued them to 42 Newton meters. Big bolts, for instance, this one, another bolt which is here, this one, 2 bolts from the bottom, and this bolt, and this bolt, I torqued them to 100 Newton meters. And this nut, this bolt, and this bolt, I torqued them, I think, to 84 Newton meters. Something in between 80, so 84, I believe it was 84. I found this torque in some manual for similar car, for similar engine, and it kind of makes sense to me, you know. The next thing I'm going to install back the EGR cooler, just because it's a bit tricky to install, you know, this hose here. So this is the next step. And also I noticed here it doesn't look like antifreeze to me, to be honest. Or probably it is, not sure what is that. Seems like my hose is leaking here, but should not. Antifreeze, you know, should have some, I mean, a bit different look here. So I'm not sure if it is antifreeze. So, okay, I'm installing the EGR cooler. As usual, before installation, I, you know, put some water there, and then, I mean, basically clean the hoses, basically clean the radiator. So I already cleaned the EGR and I have a video on my channel, so it's pretty clean. As you can see, the starter is installed, so one bolt here, one here, and another one under the slave cylinder, which is temporarily installed, as I said. So I torqued them to 70 Newton meters. I found, you know, something similar in the manual for similar engine. I think 70 is okay for such bolts. So okay, the starter is installed now. It's hard to show it as usual, but you see it. Wiring, I will keep it, you know, so far I will keep it just like this. This is the EGR cooler from the bottom, and the tricky thing is this hose and this clamp. So I hope you see it. So you see, I was able to install this clamp, you know, from the bottom using, you know, just long pliers like this, and I installed the hose from the top. It's possible to do it from top, but you know, I did it from the bottom this time. The EGR cooler is installed, so bolts there, you see 2 bolts here, 2 bolts there, actually nuts, and the clamp is here, you know, installed. This nut, and this is the holder and vacuum control here. I torque those nuts just by hand. Don't apply much torque there, it's not needed. And this hose is easy, and as you can see here, you know, access to that lower hose, it's, you know, pretty tricky. So here I installed back, you know, this holder of the exhaust. I screwed it by hand without, you know, torque wrench. This one, 100 Newton meters, I torqued them, 2 bolts. Basically the same, like, you know, like this bolt here. Yeah. So I also installed the drive shaft. As you can see, I put transmission oil here, not the special grease kind of, so transmission oil is okay here. This is the support of the drive shaft. 48 Newton meters I screwed them, and I installed back, you know, this plate, 1 bolt here, 1 here, and there is a nut somewhere. So I don't see the nut, but I think this one, yeah. So this is the nut, and 10 millimeters, 2 nuts here, and 1 here, and 1 there. So this part is installed, and here I put it in the wheel knuckle, you know, and here on the splines I added, you know, ceramic grease. Filler and drain plugs, they're the same, completely the same. So as you can see, the washer here, copper, 1 millimeter thickness, internal diameter 18 millimeters, external 24 millimeters. I will install 2 new. The drain plug is installed, 30 Newton meters torque. As you can see, the new gasket is there. When the subframe is installed, you won't be able to use socket here, just because subframe doesn't allow you to do so. It is 24 millimeters, I think. Okay. So here I need to put the cables back, ground, you know, those holders. Here on the Apple connection I will clean it, and I will put lithium grease here so that it's lubricated properly. So let's see. Everything is installed here. Here I put lithium grease, the same that I put for the, you know, for the fork. So 2 bolts here, 2 bolts here, the holder here, ground here, and also another holder I hope you see this, you know, small nut and some other nut there. Hope you see it. So basically, of course, without the torque wrench, I already switched the gears and everything works here. At least it looks like it works. So great. I put the filler plug for the gearbox temporarily like this. I will fill the gearbox when I have the subframe installed, just because it affects, you know, position of the engine. So I want to, you know, have some better level there. And regarding coolant, so basically fill it very slowly like this, super slowly, and this way you will remove most of the air from the cooling system. So the amount of coolant that we can drain from the radiator is around 5 liters, so you need to put 5 liters back. As you can see, my coolant is pink and it is G12 plus. It's not POAT coolant with phosphates. You can use G12 here, you can, not a big deal. So it is aluminum engine head, EPDM rubber, you know, coolant hoses, and cast iron the engine block. So G12 works very well. G12 is just pure OAT coolant without phosphates. Not a big deal, just because phosphates, it is corrosion inhibitor, so not a big deal. I mean, I use G12 here and it works very well. I forgot to screw here one bolt, this one. I'm not sure why I unscrewed it, and to be honest, seems like it's possible to unscrew, you know, this and this without unmounting all that stuff, just because you can simply, I believe, kind of take it, I mean pull it a bit and move to the right. So I'm not sure if you need to mount all that stuff, but anyway. Regarding this one, by the way, in the manual they state that you should put transmission oil here, not a special grease or something, so I believe that it's okay. Don't forget to install this rubber back. And by the way, when you work, you know, with wheel knuckle, now as you can see the arm is the lowermost position. Better to up it a bit using some jack stand or something, just because it's not good for bushings here. In my case, I'm going to replace them, so not a big deal. And also keep in mind that this ABS wire, be careful with it, just because it's very easy to pull it and basically break it. Okay, so I put the antifreeze back, and I think this is the end of part 2. So the next part, I will put wirings here, you know, intake, stuff like that, and the subframe and the suspension. Thank you for watching.